Hey, Dylan from ClearBridge here, and today I'm going to show you around a brand new video conferencing platform called CB Meet. CB Meet allows you to connect with all of your colleagues while working remotely and not having to worry about security or data threats like you would with some of the other video conferencing platforms. CB Meet has some really awesome functionality, and I'm really excited to show you. I think you guys are going to love it, so let's go check it out. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do as a host is we're going to start a new meeting. So we go to a really simple URL, meet.clearone.ca, and that'll bring us to our home screen. So I type that into my browser, and here I am at meet.clearone.ca. What I'm going to do first is just start a new meeting. And I'm just going to bring your attention up here to the name of this meeting, and you'll see it up here in my URL. This is really important because this is our meeting URL if we just start a brand new meeting. The name of this meeting, as you'll see, it's a bit of a silly name, Environmental Rockets Wipe Thoughtfully. So this meeting is being pulled from a database of words. It's a meeting name generator. And what this database is a list of adjectives, plural nouns, verbs, and adverbs. And when you create a new meeting, it just randomly pulls in a bunch of these words, and we've done the math. There is about 1.7 trillion different combinations of these meeting names. So the chances of you picking the same meeting name twice are super slim. You actually have 121 times better odds of winning the lottery. So this is a really, really secure way to name a meeting. Another thing about this too is it's a little bit easier to remember. So if you need to tell somebody over the phone perhaps the name of your meeting with the URL, you can give them these 4 words and they can type them into their address bar, and they'll be able to access your meeting really easily instead of a silly string of numbers and characters that are impossible to remember. So another great feature of CB Meet is creating your own password. So to set a password, all I have to do is go down to this I button down in the right corner here, and I click Add a Password. So this is the password, and then I hit Enter on my keyboard, and you can see that password is saved. I can remove the password if I wish. I can hit this copy button, which copies the meeting URL link. And if I close this and I open up the password again, or the info button again, it shows me all that information. All right, now if I wanted to send out an invitation or add this meeting link to a calendar, it's really easy. All you have to do is go to your calendar of choice. I'm going to use Google Calendar for my example, and we'll see how easy it is just to create a new meeting. So let's say I want to schedule my meeting for April the 16th at 2 p.m. I just hop into the meeting and I say meeting invitation, and I can configure all my details here. I'm not going to get too into that, but for location, I can just paste my meeting URL here in the location, and I can always throw that in the description if I wanted to enter the password. This is the password, and then your meeting is created, and you can add all the guests you want to this meeting. They'll have it in their calendar, and they can attend. They've got all the information for meeting there. They just have to click on the URL and they'll be right in the meeting with you. Now, one thing to keep in mind too is if you've created a meeting with the password and you've invited people to this meeting at a certain time, you have to make sure that you tell them the password, otherwise they won't be able to get access. It seems pretty intuitive, but it's something that people can potentially forget. So just make sure that you share the meeting password with the people that you want to join the meeting when you're sending out your invites. So one of the main functionalities that you'll probably use the most often is muting your participants or muting all of your participants, especially if you're doing a webinar or any kind of presentation, or if you're hosting a meeting where you don't want any interruptions to occur right off the bat or while you're speaking. There's a really simple feature called Mute All Participants. All you have to do is click on this drop-down arrow and click Mute Everyone here down in the corner, and that will mute everybody who is in your meeting. You can't unmute them once you've muted them though. Now, in terms of privacy, if you've muted somebody and then they start talking to their child or their spouse while they're at home, and then you went and unmuted them, that could be a bit of a breach of privacy. So that's why you can mute people, but you can't unmute them. They can only unmute themselves in meetings. You can also just mute one participant. So if somebody doesn't realize that they're muted, or maybe they've stepped away from their computer and they forgot to mute their computer, you can hover over these three dots on the right of their tile, their video tile, and click mute. There's one other functionality with muting that says mute everyone else. So when you're hovering over that person's tile and you click mute everyone else, that means that everyone except for that person in the meeting is going to be muted. That includes you. So you'll be muted as well as everybody else in the meeting, except that person whose tile you click that on. As I again hover over this drop down, you can kick people out of a meeting. So if for whatever reason you feel the need, you need to remove somebody from a meeting, you can do so by just kicking them out with that button. You can also send private messages to people. Another cool functionality is you can change the volume of somebody talking. Now that only changes how loud they are to you. It doesn't change their volume to everybody else. That's just for your speakers. Now when you're hosting a meeting, you know who's a moderator by the bottom right corner of your hosting screen or your tile. You'll see this little star right here, and that just indicates that you are a moderator or a host of your CB meeting. If you click on this three dots down in the bottom right, you'll see the settings button right here. And if you click on more, we've gone through some of these settings, but if you click on more, you can select whether everybody starts the meeting muted, which could be a handy feature, especially a lot of people don't necessarily realize, especially the first time using a new software, that they may be coming into a meeting with their mic on hot and their camera on hot. So what you can do as moderator is to click this button where everybody starts muted. You can also click everybody starts hidden, so everybody's camera is off when they join the meeting. So they can then choose to unmute themselves and turn their cameras on when they're ready. Lastly, in this list here, you can click everyone follows me. Now that view only works when, if I select it, that view only works when you are in not the grid view, but when you're in kind of the full screen view of somebody talking. When you have a bunch of people in a meeting, you'll see them all list on the side here. And if everybody is following you, it's a great way to ensure that even if other people are talking in the meeting or are trying to jump in the conversation, especially during a presentation, that people's eyes will still be on your screen and it won't take away from your screen and go to the person who's talking, as the software will do by default. Okay, one thing I want to quickly show you is what it looks like when somebody you've invited to your meeting jumps into the meeting link before you as the host. So I'm just going to pop the meeting link back in my URL here, and I've exited the meeting as the host. In this browser, I'm just a guest. And so when the meeting pops up, you'll see here, waiting for the host. The conference training meeting CB Meet has not yet started. If you're the host, then please authenticate. Otherwise, please wait for the host to arrive. So now they can click I am the host, and they can enter their login credentials. And if you've supplied them with the password and they know their login name, then they'll be able to actually jump into that meeting before you and act as the host. So what I might recommend in that scenario is that you either get in there a little bit early, or you can hold off on supplying the password to your guests until you've gotten in the meeting, created the password, and sent it out. Those are two options that you could do to avoid this scenario. All right, so those are the basic features and functionalities for hosting a meeting and things you would want to know as a host or as a moderator. There are some other great features with the CB Meet that we haven't covered here that I'm going to cover in another video that'll cover everything that you need to know about some more in-depth functionality for this really cool software. I hope you join me there.